Hi everyone, welcome to WW Designs. My name is Nikki and this is part 2 of my Vintage Glam Journal. That's the playlist that all these videos are under. The first one I did just gave you a nice run through of some of the fabrics and things I have collected for this, and we need to start making our cover. And I'm going to use this box here. So all we have to do is get it prepped. So the first thing I usually do is go down one of the sides. Now, what I try and do is cut literally just inside the fold area. You just don't want any of that chunky part involved in your cover, because otherwise you can sort of end up with a bit of a lip. Now, I have never done a fabric cover journal. That's what we're going to have a go at doing today. So that's something new to me. So if you have any of that stuff left, get rid of it. Now, the next thing we're going to do is do the same, but I've just turned it inside out. It doesn't matter whether you do or not, but I just find this easier because I have the clunky bit on the outside, just trying to keep it clear. Then we need to trim down this. What I do is I don't throw this bit out. Normally you could just throw this in the bin, but I always keep this bit and use it as some extra strength for the inside of my spine. And I cut this down, and I'm a little bit more generous in what I trim off because you don't want it interfering at the folds. So I do it all the way around. I just take off a little bit more. It doesn't matter if it's a tiny bit too small for what you need it for, as in stitching in your signatures. It doesn't matter if it's a little bit short at the top or the bottom, but by taking a nice amount off, let's just see if I've taken enough. So my aim is to glue that in there. And as you can see, I'm inside. So you don't want this to interfere with your folds. I actually need to take a tiny bit more off because otherwise your journal just never folds nicely, and I don't like that. So let's just take a tiny bit more off. You don't have to do this. You can just throw it in the bin. But because I'm just using fabric to cover the journal, I want the spine to have some strength. Yep, that looks much better. And then when I fold it up, there's no resistance. That's what we're after. Then we're doing exactly the same. We're just getting rid of all these bits. I could fold them over to provide strength at the top and bottom. But again, because I'm covering it in fabric, I just don't want all those lumpy, bumpy bits. So I'm prepared to let them go. And then lucky last, this bit here. Okay, tiny bit, you can just barely see it. There's the tiniest bit of the fold there. I just don't want that bit there. How's this one? Oh, look, there's a tiny bit up the top too. I know I'm being pedantic, but that's okay. Now, let's just throw all this in the bin. Give me 1 second and get it out of our way. And so the first thing I'm going to do is glue this bit down. Now, there will be a slight lump here because obviously this is sort of a bit doubled over. I'm not going to worry about that. If I find it really annoys me, what you can do, I might even put another piece of fabric contrasting down there, just if I feel it needs something. But for the moment, we're just not going to worry. Now, this is my favorite glue, Helmer Tiger Grip. It is great for fabric, card, anything you are playing with. And I have a few bottles of this. So what I'll just start this one here and see if it's going to behave a bit better. Now, we're just going to put a nice generous amount down. Don't care if it doesn't quite get to the edge or anything like that, because we're going to cover it all in fabric. So that means it will be held in place. I don't have to worry about it lifting, but I'm putting plenty on there to make it nice and strong and getting it as centered as possible. See, now I've got this on the other side, but that really doesn't matter. Either way, if it annoys me, I can fix it. But that's if I'm going to be that pedantic about it. Okay, so the next thing we have to do is grab some fabric. Now, I have already cut, I'm just grabbing a wet wipe, sorry, while I'm chatting here, just to try and stop that from clunking up. I have already cut 2 bits of fabric, and they are a little bit bigger than the actual cover. Again, because I'm just using fabric, not paper, I don't want to do the fold over arrangement. Again, it gets all lumpy and clumpy. So we're going to try and do this a very easy way, and that is by just using 2 pieces of fabric that are bigger than my cover, and I will stitch around the edge when we get to that. So the first thing we have to do is work out the top and the bottom of this. So the aim of the game is to have our fabric, the good side. See, this fabric, honestly, both are good. It wouldn't matter which one you used, but I think I like that one a little bit more. So our fabric, the good side is facing down. If you have a directional print, you have to be super careful that when you do the second bit, that it is facing up the right way. Obviously, with a fabric like this, it makes no difference at all. Now, because this fabric is thicker than the one I'm going to put inside, I want to put the print side of this down and then keep the plain inside for my printed piece, because this is finer. I just don't want, I don't know if you would see it. Yeah, you can just get a hint of it. So I definitely want to make sure I do this way first. So as you can see, my fabric is a little bit bigger. Now, there's another reason why I've done it this way rather than folding it over. When I was collecting papers, which you will see in the next video, I noticed that this was just a tiny bit shorter than an A4 piece of paper width. Now, by creating this extra edge on both sides here, if I don't want to, I don't have to chop a little bit off each piece of paper. I can make them work and not have to cut anything off, because what I'm doing is adding some extra height on both sides. So that was sort of my logic here, but let's wait and see if it really works. If I do have to trim some off, then I will happily do that. But I thought, oh, look, let's just try and make life a little bit easier if we can. So what we're going to do is now which glue's working, which one's not. I have never done this before, as I said, so this is a trial and error type thing. I'm going to put lots of glue down. Oh, now I've forgotten something. Hang on, we've forgotten a step. Wait 1 minute. Let's start again. Now, I'm putting a piece of baking paper down. The reason why I'm doing that is if my liberal selection of glue seeps through the fabric, the baking paper just peels straight off it. So we're trying to play it safe and not have it attached to anything. So I'm just whacking lots of glue down. I want plenty, especially we'll start in the middle here. Okay, then I'm just going to use this scraper to try and make sure I cover the whole thing. I don't care about the very, very edges, because I will be sewing those down. So it doesn't matter if the edges aren't perfect. It also doesn't matter if some of the glue seeps out the edges. I'm okay with that too, because I will be sewing quite close to the edge. So we're giving this a really good smothering of glue. Now, the reason why I've decided to do this upside down the way I am, I want to get this cover on, if possible, without stretching the fabric as much as I can. Reason being, this is a very thick fabric, and I'm concerned that if I try and pull the fabric over the cardboard, I'm actually going to stretch it. And I want to try and avoid that, mainly because I'm worried that when I then try and create the folds, if the fabric is too taut and stretched, first I might lose my stripes, and secondly, it just may not fold over nicely. Now, this is not a perfect cut. I'm going to, oh, see, I should have actually gone a tiny bit further down. I don't know if I can now, but that's okay. I should still have enough there. Now, let's just see how this has gone. Yep, that's looking great. I'm not seeing any distortion, so that is exactly the outcome I was trying to achieve. And I think that is well covered. Oh, I'm very happy with that. As I said, I've never done this before, so this is experimental for me, but that worked exactly as I wanted it to. So now we can do exactly the same on the inside, very liberally adding glue. And of course, this is where you have to make sure you are very serious about the direction of your print if you have to be concerned with that. I certainly do, because this has like a little bouquet. It wouldn't be life or death if it was upside down, but I would prefer it to be the correct way. So again, just using the scraper, try and make sure we get a nice dose of glue everywhere. Again, not panicking about the edges. Now, this is interesting. This is absorbing in a lot more than the other side did, excuse me, because this is like raw cardboard on this side. So I have to maybe add a bit more glue to get the same desired effect. See, and I've even got a few little stripes already, but that's okay, because we will be adding decoration and stuff like that to it. So now we're going to do the same thing, but obviously we need to turn our fabric. First, make sure the direction is correct, and that's that little bit I want pointing down. And then, of course, we need to turn this upside down because we want this to go on the inside. And then we're going to try and line this up again. Oh, no. Okay, this is easier said than done because I've got that little fold there that I'm concerned about. I cut this one a tiny bit bigger to give me a little bit of grace, and then I can just trim things off as necessary. And then we'll just gently pat it down and see how we've gone. Okay, so, we've got a few little things here we need to try and smooth out. Just a couple of little lumps there. Just gently nudging them out of the way. Let's get, let's try. Okay, sorry, I'm pulling that probably out of focus here. Okay, we have a couple of tiny little spots that are being naughty, and I think the best thing I can do is not panic about them. But generally speaking, this actually worked really well. I must say I am quite surprised. Okay, so we have this little area here, but that's all past the cardboard, so that's perfect. There's just a couple of tiny bits, but by the time I've added a pocket and other decoration, you won't even see that. So I'm very happy with this for my first attempt. Obviously, using thicker fabric works exceptionally well. This just went down so smooth, so very happy with that. This, well, as I said, couple of little lumps, but we're not going to worry about that. These marks are wet glue that has seeped through. That, of course, will go clear when it dries. So I'm going to leave this alone now, let it dry completely. Then I will get to it with my sewing machine, trim up the edges. And one other thing I will do very shortly, once I've trimmed it, I won't do it until then, I'm actually going to get a bit of glue on my finger like this, and I'm going to dab around the edges to help stop too much fraying, but I can't do that until I've trimmed it. But can you see what happens if you just use a little bit of glue when it's freshly trimmed? It just helps to stop excess fraying. So that's just a little tip for you. So we're going to leave this here for now, and we'll continue on in the next video. Thanks for watching, and stay safe and stay healthy. Until next time, bye for now. Okay, so the base of my cover is complete. And I've got a few takeaways from doing this because I've never done this one before. It's all a bit trial and error. First things first, I should have been a little bit more generous when I cut out the fabric. I made a small allowance and I should have made it larger. It would have made it easier to sew because there were a couple of spots where I was very close to the edge. So just to make life easier, shouldn't have been so scummy and just added a bit more fabric. The other thing, you can just see the printing on the box. Now, when I laid this fabric down on the box, I couldn't see through it. But after adhering it, I can see it. Now, it doesn't worry me in the slightest because I will be adding plenty of embellishment to this cover. It won't matter that you can faintly see the words through it. So it's not a problem. But I think if I was ever going to use a packaging box that has printing on it, I would definitely add a layer of white gesso first so that it would soften anything printed on the packaging. And on this side, you can see I've got a few little lumps and bumps. It's not too bad, but I think the reason why this happened was because this side of the cardboard was so absorbent. The glue tend to sink into the paper instead of sitting on top. You see, I had no such trouble at all on this side. So again, a layer of gesso would have been fabulous. Also, again, I don't care that I have a few little lumps and bumps. There will be pockets and things going on here that you will never even see those. But interesting exercise by just having a go. This is my result. Not 100% happy, but not overly disappointed. And I'm definitely going to make this work. Just because there's a few little lumps and bumps, guess what? Too bad. So I've made some notes. If I ever do this fabric style sort of cover again, I will definitely do things slightly differently. Or just simply use plain white or craft coloured cardboard would have done the job. But I love using old packaging and recycling it. So there you go. They're the sort of things that I've picked up. If you ever want to try and do the same, things that you could certainly be considering when doing it. But otherwise, basically pretty happy. You're not going to see much of this cover by the time I'm finished with it, if things that are in my head transcribe into reality. But anyway, great exercise. Hope those hints help if you ever try and do this sort of cover yourself. So I will be back shortly as we progress through the construction of this Vintage Glam Journal. Hope you enjoyed it. Please give this video a thumbs up if you did. And if you're not already subscribed, it's completely free to follow along, and you can learn how to make a Vintage Glam Journal too. So until next time, bye for now. Stay safe and stay healthy.